Salutations, tubers, and welcome back to the layout room for this, the final part in my little series on steam locomotive wheel arrangements. This time around, we should be covering articulated locomotives as our kind of our grand finale. Not going to be as comprehensive of a showing as my other videos in the series with all the different models, as I've only got one articulated locomotive in the collection at present. But I thought I would go over the theory and just some basic information about articulateds. So I guess without any further ado, we should be getting started. I guess the most obvious place to get started is what is an articulated steam locomotive? An articulated steam locomotive is a locomotive that has more than one engine unit underneath the boiler, and it's called articulated because the two units are joined together with a hinge pin in the middle, and the front engine unit will swing back and forth, and this lets the locomotive go around tighter curves than it would normally be able to if the whole thing was a rigid locomotive with everything coupled together. Now, it should be mentioned the boiler up here is not articulated because steam boiler is a pressure vessel, and you can't go bending a pressure vessel because if you tried, the thing would blow sky high, more or less. So, next obvious question is, why would you need an articulated locomotive? Well, as steam locomotives got bigger and more powerful, and they got longer and they got heavier, they started running into trouble going around right of way, basically bridges, tunnels, and curves that were designed for the smaller locomotives, like the flange squealers we got on this particular layout. I mean, if we tried to have a rigid locomotive, it wouldn't be able to go around the curve. It just wouldn't do it. And it's often been described as a centipede having a stiff neck. So there was a rather brilliant French inventor named Anatole Mallet came up with the concept. Basically took a locomotive, sliced the frame, put the hinge pin in, and then put another set of cylinders. And with Mallet's design, it's what's called a compound locomotive. In other words, uses the steam twice. Usually in a Mallet type articulated locomotive, the rear set uses high pressure steam direct from the boiler, which then passes it along a set of pipes to the front cylinders, which use the steam again, and they're usually bigger, and then it shoots it up the stack like a conventional steam locomotive. The problem with that particular design is the front unit has to be, as mentioned previously a moment ago, a lot bigger to compensate for the lower pressure of the steam. So at high speeds, all the machinery up front is going to thump down on the rails a whole lot harder than the rear set, and for running at high speed, that's problematic because it can damage the track. So they came up with what's called a simple articulated, in which case both sets of steam cylinders use high pressure steam direct from the boiler, and once they use it, they shoot it up the stack like a conventional steam locomotive. Now, as far as wheel arrangement, most of the wheel arrangements we've seen before that are non-articulated just have three numbers, like 484, 460, etc., etc. With an articulated locomotive, you add another set of numbers to denote the extra set of powered units in between. So in this case, this is a Challenger, so it's a 4664, and doesn't necessarily have to stop there. Like with the Erie triplexes and stuff, you have another engine unit. So let's just say, for sake of argument, I added another set of 6 behind this one here. So then it would be a 46664. Boy, wouldn't that be something to see? But basically, that's how you account for the extra set of powered drivers in white notation. So basically, denotes 4 lead wheels, 2 sets of powered 6-wheel drivers, and then 4 wheels under here. And as everybody is pretty well aware at this point, it didn't really stop there. we had a further development of this particular type of locomotive because the Union Pacific kind of found them wanting. They wanted more power to go up the mountains, like steep grades, that sort of thing, like Sherman Hill and the Wasatch Mountains. So they came up with, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but back there on the wall is a poster of its big brother, the Big Boy, which is a 4884. Had the really good fortune to go see the real deal in operation when it came through my neck of the woods. So if you're interested, I have some videos of it that I shot out on location, chasing that big old thing around. But so far as big power, that's about as big as they got. That's about as big as I'm likely to get. In terms of the model, it kind of differs from the prototype in that both sets of engine units swivel, which helps it go around these really tight 027 curves we have here on this layout. But in prototype, usually it's only the front unit that pivots. And one neat thing about it is when it's going down the rail, kind of a typical thing for articulated, is this part right here will swing, the boiler will pause, and then it'll start following it around the curve. That's something to look out for when you see these things running. But yeah, I think make a good place to stop. I hope you found this little series informative and enjoyable. I'm looking for some suggestions as to what kind of video series I might want to shoot next. Been kind of kicking around the idea of doing an evolution of the passenger coach, passenger equipment, that sort of thing. So if you guys would be interested in seeing something like that, let me know down in the comments or otherwise get in touch. So until next time, tubers, see you out there.